Hello, my name is Aaron Carlson, and I am a student at Grace College within the Masters in Higher Education program. This PowerPoint is a brief overview of some of my work in the class MHE 5080 Research Methods. The specific work in reference was a research proposal that included three main components: the introduction, the literature review, and the methodology. The topic for this proposal is spiritual life at higher education institutions, how spirituality impacts college students. For more information on this topic, my contact information will be included at the bottom of this PowerPoint. Each slide will have an audio recording to discuss more information related to the slide. As you listen to each slide, consider the impact that spirituality has had on your own life, whether in secondary or post-secondary education. The introduction was the first chapter of the work and included 5 distinct sections. These 5 sections were the statement of the problem, the purpose of the study, the significance of the study, definitions of key terms, limitations of the study, and a summary of the research. The abstract, research questions, theoretical framework, and the historical background were all key components of the first part of this paper as well. There is a significant gap in the literature concerning spiritual life at higher education institutions. I chose this topic because it is underrepresented in present-day research related to higher education institutions. This has been corroborated by several sources that agree with this statement. While college students are researched at length, the impact that spirituality has on them is missing in today's literature. This work served as a synthesis of available information related to the main topic, specifically the 7 subtopics. Research was then conducted through a survey of students regarding the impact of spirituality on their lives. The purpose of the study flows from the research question, and that is to determine if a connection exists between spirituality and positive living among college students. The intended audience for this work would not only include students, but also faculty and administrators. Through this study, administrators should recognize the value of spirituality and work to create an environment that supports spiritual growth among students. The main research question that was the driving force behind this study was two-part. What is the impact of spirituality/religiosity on students, if any, and is this impact positive or negative? Through this study, it should be clear that while there are some negative factors stemming from spirituality, overall, spirituality/religiosity does have a profound positive impact on students. There were several other research questions that played a role in the study as well, especially related to the subtopics. Among these questions included: is spirituality a factor in health-related behaviors? Do students lose spirituality during college? And is spirituality important for faculty? Answers to these questions will be explored soon. This study used a theoretical framework to provide a foundation for the research. The specific framework is a strength-based perspective of spirituality. This approach was formulated by Dr. Hodge to address a gap in the literature related to a specific theoretical framework native to spirituality. Dr. Hodge wrote, "Building upon existing theory and research, the framework will delineate the various mechanisms through which spirituality fosters individual change. These 7 mechanisms include health promotive behaviors and lifestyles, social support, the psychodynamics of ritual, the psychodynamics of cognitive schemata, ego challenge, quantum effects, and supernatural effects." Dr. Hodge's purpose was to add to the knowledge base by creating the theoretical framework to be used by others for future research. This study is significant for three categories of individuals. To students, this study can help promote living a healthy lifestyle by focusing on how spirituality can play a positive role in one's life. To faculty, this study can shed light on the impact of spirituality on students' lives and how they can adapt their teaching practices to best accommodate students. For higher education administrators, the main call to action on behalf of many of the researchers is for administrators to better understand how spirituality is integrated into higher education. Administrators can also take concrete steps to help promote spiritual growth among students and faculty. As with any conversation or research work, defining vague or controversial terms used is paramount to clarity between the researcher and the audience. Within this study, the two keywords that the study centers around are the ideas of spirituality and religiosity. These terms were specifically selected to include more data in the research. This way, the results are more comprehensive and including of various students within the larger population of college students, yet are not limited to subpopulations of students of a specific faith. Both terms were difficult to define, but based on sound references, spirituality is the inner subjective life, as contrasted with the objective domain of observable behavior and material objects that we can point to and measure directly. Religiosity is a number of dimensions associated with religious beliefs and involvement. While this study was careful to research most subtopics related to spiritual life at higher education institutions, more work can be done. Any good researcher should recognize their limitations and areas for improvement for future research. The occasional reliance on dissertation studies and surveying a faith-based institution both subtract from the overall quality of this work. For future research, researchers ought to concentrate on conducting similar surveys among a larger pool of participants at several non-faith-based institutions. Further, research is needed related to spirituality among faculty and higher education administrators at public institutions. While the main umbrella topic has not been researched enough, some subtopics have been researched more than others. COVID-19, for example, has not had significant research devoted to it based on how recent it was. Mental health, though, has seen extensive research dating back to the 1980s, especially among college students. Seminal work, sometimes called pivotal or landmark studies, are articles that initially presented an idea of great importance or influence within a particular discipline. Alexander and Helen Aston, as referenced multiple times in this paper, are regarded by many as foundational in their research, focused on spirituality among college students. The literature review includes 7 subtopics that relate to the main idea of the work. In the first section, on the role of spirituality in determining a student's future, one can conclude that students with a higher level of spirituality have greater confidence in choosing a major, developing a meaningful life philosophy, and answering many of life's toughest questions compared to non-spiritual students. Spirituality impacts a student's thought process and future, but research has also linked positive physical health to students with a higher spiritual religious rating. Students with a higher spiritual rating have a lower chance of contracting common colds. Their recovery rates are faster, and pain from chronic diseases has been less for those with a positive outlook on life. The third section discussed the topic of mental health. There are several positive coping strategies and deterrents from mental illness that researchers can agree on. Spirituality/religiosity continues to rank among the top most effective methods to combat mental health illness. College is when many students change their health-related behaviors, many sadly adopting bad habits. Research indicates that spirituality can play a positive role in preventing students from participating in risky health behaviors. From the fifth section, it can be concluded that higher education institutions can partially be blamed for students rejecting spirituality/religiosity. In addition, students attending faith-based institutions with specific goals for spiritual growth tended to achieve them by their senior year, if the institution helped support the student's development. Regarding spirituality and faculty, spirituality plays a significant role in how faculty and higher education administrators operate daily, and researchers should be mindful of the fact that spirituality affects more than an institution's students. The timeliness of COVID-19 has brought this research topic to the forefront of studies conducted on college students. Many researchers can agree that interventions focusing on spirituality among college students is beneficial to their coping with stress and improving their mental health. Overall, every subtopic related to spiritual life at higher education within the literature review has found spirituality to be a positive influence that administrators ought to consider. The third chapter of the study was the methodology. This was conducted as a survey of undergraduate students at Grace College. The data and findings paralleled what was concluded from the literature review, that students with a higher self-rating of spirituality, on average, perform better in several categories related to healthy living compared to those with a lower self-rating. This study was open to any undergraduate student at Grace College, except for minors. The specific demographics include 27 total participants, divided between 16 males and 11 females. Students were separated between 4 grade levels, including 11 freshmen, 6 sophomores, 4 juniors, and 6 seniors. All students were provided an informed consent form for reference, and it was also read audibly for participants as well. The specific survey was estimated to take participants 15 minutes to complete, but most students completed it around 13 minutes. There were 5 total sessions with different participants at each. Among the questions, distributed by digital survey link, there were 5 short answers and 25 fill-in-the-blank questions on a scale of 1 to 10. Based on the student's response to spirituality, subsequent responses would be compared to that as a main reference. Of the 27 respondents, 15 self-reported their spirituality as high, or in the 6 to 8 range out of 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. 10 respondents self-rated their spirituality as low, or in the 2 to 4 range. The other 2 were outliers in the data plot, with one ranked as a 1 in spirituality and the other as a 9. Those who self-rated their spirituality as high were more confident in their major, 73%, participated in physical activity more than 10 hours in a week, 66%, experienced fewer mental health illnesses, 86%, were less likely to hook up while at college, 93%, regularly attended religious activities outside of required attendance, 80%, grew in their spiritual life, 73%, and used spirituality as a positive coping strategy during the pandemic, 86%. Data from respondents who self-reported their spirituality as low exhibited a mirror image in results. On average, respondents in the low category had less confidence in their major, 70%, participated in physical activity more than 10 hours a week, 30%, experienced more mental health illnesses, 60%, were more likely to hook up while at college, 50%, frequently attended religious activities outside of those required, 40%, grew in their spiritual life, 30%, and used spirituality as a positive coping strategy during the pandemic, 20%. While limited, Other similar studies have been conducted at larger public institutions, and the results parallel. The small number of participants and their location look different than other reputable studies conducted at the national level, but the data and findings still authenticate the conclusion that spirituality plays a positive role in students' lives. Many quality resources were cited for this work, but this list highlights 5 that were especially critical to understanding the topic of spiritual life at higher education institutions. For full details and references for future research, feel free to reach out with any questions, comments, criticisms, and concerns about the research. As mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. My email address is the best way to reach me at carlsoj@grace.edu. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to researching this topic even further in the future.